Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT14, and BT14 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be a brand new iteration on the Yellow Hybrids deck. So Yellow Hybrids is, well, a hybrid-based deck where the main strategy is to be able to focus on utilizing our Tamers as the main point of aggression and resource generation. So thanks to the brand new Red and Yellow Shine Greymon tools, we have more ways to be able to utilize our Tamers, which only is for the deck's benefit, especially since it also gives us the potential on utilizing an additional color for various different things depending on your overall approach to the deck. The deck at its core is still a recovery and chip style of deck where you're using your rookies and low-level Digimon to slowly aggress onto the opponent, whittle away at their security while you're utilizing your higher stages to stave off some damage and recover to make it even harder for the opponent to kill you. So one of the biggest weaknesses of the deck is the fact that because it is this more chip style approach, the opponent could potentially wall you out of utilizing your Digimon well to chip and actually deal damage, while also doubling down on the fact that you don't have a whole lot of burst damage, which means that you don't have a lot of ways to easily and quickly kill the opponent out of nowhere, which could potentially leave the opponent with plenty of time to be able to take the win before you do. But once you look past this, there are just a lot of really solid things that this deck can do, mostly on the control side of things, because you do have lots of good control tools to try to have and line up plenty of security bombs thanks to the recovery aspect to throw the opponent off even more, which could buy you a little bit of extra time acting like security control with an actual game plan behind it, with ways to actually win the game. So with all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm not really going to be running a yellow base for this, which I know is kind of counterintuitive considering, well, this is a primarily yellow deck. So if you wanted to run a yellow base, then you could run the BT12 Coromon just for some extra removal potential, but I really do like utilizing a red base with 4 copies of the BT14 Coromon to act as the best draw engine for us to be using. And then when it comes to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Agumon. So because of the deck it being a hybrid-based deck, we're not actually trying to digivolve from our level 3s into our level 4s, which means that we could, well, actually focus on the level 3s being level 3s, and Agumon is one of the best level 3s at doing this, just because when Digimon are moving out of our raising area, including itself, it's going to be allowing us to gain a memory and hatch a new egg in our raising area, allowing us to be able to use our raising area quicker with that extra resource generation on top to make our plays as efficient as we possibly can. And speaking of rookies that are helping us generate some extra resources, I'm going to be running 2 copies of the EX4 Agumon. So EX4 Agumon at the start of our main, if we have a red or yellow tamer in play, we get to gain an extra memory to make our plays even more efficient. Then it also has a nice inheritable ability for when one of our red or yellow tamers becomes suspended, which isn't impossible to do in this deck. We get to draw a card, acting as a solid little card draw engine in of himself as well. But the main Agumon I'm going to be running for this deck, and the main rookie I'm going to be focusing on outside of Agumon, is going to be 4 copies of the BT13 Agumon. So we are going to be playing a little bit into the Shine engine, utilizing our Marcuses, and, well, this Agumon allows us to be able to treat our Marcus like a Digimon, which means that we could basically utilize our Tamers as extra ways to aggress without digivolving on top of them into our hybrid-based Digimon. The inheritable ability isn't really going to matter a whole lot, but the extra removal isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world either when it lines itself up. Next, on to the level 4s, I'm going to be running 1 copy of GeoGreymon. So this is the BT13 version of GeoGreymon, and this card is so good that it is actually limited to 1, which is why we're only running the 1 copy. So what this card is doing is the fact that we can use it to search our security and be able to play a red or yellow tamer out of our security for free and recover one and shuffle our security stack if we've played a tamer for free. So in a hybrid based deck, we want to make sure we have ways to be able to play our tamers as efficiently as we possibly can, and well, Agumon is just one of the best ways to be able to play any tamer, as long as it's in our security. Then its inheritable ability is doing the same thing as the Agumon, where the removal is not bad, but it's most likely not going to be mattering at all. We're just using this to be able to play out our tamers as best as we possibly can. Then when it comes to the rest of the level 4s, well, it's just basically the yellow hybrids we have access to. So I'm running 4 copies of Kazemon because it could digivolve on top of our yellow tamers as if it was a level 3 Digimon, giving us extra ways to be able to aggress onto the opponent, making our tamers basically their own little raising areas. And then I'm going to be running 4 copies of Zephyrmon because it's doing that exact same thing as Kazemon. And then when it comes to the level 5s, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Jet Sylphimon. So Jet Sylphimon is another card like Geogreymon that is so powerful that it is limited to 1. So what's making this card so good is the fact that it's super tempo efficient to digivolve up into, just because as long as the Digimon we're digivolving off of has a tamer in its digivolution source, then we get to reduce the cost of this digivolution by 2, meaning we get to digivolve into Jet Sylphimon for 1, which is super fast at trying to climb our stages to get into our higher level Digimon. And then the reward for digivolving up into this card, not only is it just tempo efficient, but it also comes with a nice ability to recover us 1, which is unrestricted as long as it has a Digimon with hybrid in its traits in its digivolution source, which again isn't too hard because almost all of our level 4s are hybrid based Digimon. So the unrestricted recovery and the tempo is what's making this card super good to climb our stages and stall the opponent. And then I'm also going to be running 4 copies of Magna Angemon Ace as the only other level 5 Digimon. So the fact that Magna Angemon Ace is an Ace Digimon is nice for when we're aggressing with our level 4 Digimon, and our level 4 Digimon just tend to live through the opponent's security. That just opens up the opportunity for us to utilize the hand counter blast digivolution ability to digivolve into this card on the opponent's turn, when all attacking triggers are resolved. Then on top of that, it also has a nice on-play and when digivolving ability, having extra flexibility on how we could approach utilizing this card, which this card is still really good to use because it's one of the best Ace Digimon, allowing us to be able to recover 1 as long as we have 5 or fewer cards in our security. And on top of that, we also get to have one of the opponent's Digimon get minus 1000 DP for each card in our security stack. So the more security that we have, which he's adding 1 by default, means that the more powerful of a removal tool this card is going to be. So all of the different ways that we could approach utilizing this card, either utilizing it as an ace or just digivolving up into this normally or even just hard playing, it's still just a really good recovery tool to try to stall out the opponent. And then when it comes to the level 6s, you could kind of be flexible with whatever level 6 that you're going to want to use. I'm just going to default to using 4 copies of Venusmon because, well, Venusmon is just one of the best level 6 Digimon that we could use generically. Again, trying to stall out the opponent and make it as hard and awkward on them as humanly possible. So when we digivolve up into this card, all of the opponent's Digimon, doesn't matter what zone they're coming from, will gain security attack -1 until the end of the opponent's turn, so it really limits the damage that they could potentially do to us. And then she also has a nice upside where during the opponent's turn, all of the opponent's Digimon with any kind of security attack change, whether it's an increase or a decrease, doesn't really matter, can't attack this Digimon, so it's a little bit safer to use this card to be aggressive with, while also not being able to activate any of their when attacking or when digivolving abilities, shutting down a lot of potential abilities that they would want to utilize their Digimon for. And then when it comes to the level 7s, I'm not playing a whole lot of level 7s, but I still would want to run some just because they could be really powerful and disruptive in their own rights. So I am going to be running 1 copy of Shine Greymon Ruin Mode as another way to try to stall out the opponent, so that way we have more time to be able to chip and aggress. So when we Digivolve up into this card and when he gets deleted, until the end of the opponent's turn, all of their opponent's Digimon gets minus 5,000 DP. So if we're able to stack his when Digivolving ability with his on delete ability, then it's a minus 10,000 DP debuff to the opponent's field, which really could limit what they could potentially do during their turn. Then he even has the ability to be able to try to trigger his on delete ability himself, where we get to delete this Digimon and one of the opponent's Digimon, and then we also get to recover one, which means we have more ways to control the field and to stall out the opponent as best as we possibly can. And then if we have a Tamer in play, which we should because we're a hybrid-based deck, then we also get to hatch a Digi-Egg into an empty space in our raising area, allowing us to use our raising area even more aggressively than we normally would. And then if you wanted to and you don't have access to Shine Greymon Rune mode, I would also recommend considering Death X, just because, well, it's Death X and it's just another easy control level 7 for the deck to use. But because we are a hybrid-based deck, we need to run lots of Tamers. So I'm going to be running a little bit of a Marcus package, where I'm going to run one copy of the BT12 Marcus. So this is really good in combination with all of our Agumons to be able to turn himself into a Digimon to be able to attack. We're not really going to be utilizing his ability to line up a Digivolutions for free, but it could potentially happen nonetheless. We just care about having Marcus being a nice way to aggress onto the opponent. Then I'm going to be running 4 copies of the BT13 Marcus, just because we still need to use our Marcuses with our Agumon to turn them into Digimon, and this is really good because not only is he a memory-fixing Tamer himself, but he comes with a nice on-play ability to suspend this Tamer, and when he becomes suspended, thanks to his All Turns ability, we get a minus 3,000 DP to one of the opponent's Digimon, and potentially gain a memory back if we have an Agumon or Greymon in its name in play. So the fact that he could be a nice control tool, whether we're using him to aggress thanks to our Agumon, or we're just playing him ourselves, is still just really, really valuable. And then I'm going to be running 3 copies of Tai Inkari. So this is just another way to be able to gain some extra memory as long as we have 3 or fewer cards in our security and the opponent has 3 or fewer cards in their security. So while we're chipping them, it's not hard to get them to 3, and if the opponent wants to try to aggress, then they could aggress onto us. We have ways to recover and control our own security to be able to manipulate this extra memory generation. Then we also have a nice handy ability where when our red or yellow Digimon are attacking, we get to suspend this Tamer to have all of the opponent's security Digimon get minus 2,000 DP for the turn, allowing our Digimon to hit into the opponent's security a little bit safer. And then I'm going to be running, as the last Tamer, 4 copies of TK Takashi. So this is the BT1 version, and this is going to be another memory-fixing Tamer for us to want to use to try to Digivolve on top of, and the fact that it's also a nice consistency tool, allowing us to look at our security for any card in there and add it into our hand is really nice, especially if the card we take is yellow, then we get to recover 1, replacing what we just lost, and shuffling our security stack, giving us that security information as well. And then when it comes to the options, this is where we're going to be playing a little bit akin to security control, running as many security threats as we possibly can. So I'm going to be running 3 copies of Crimson Blaze just as a floodgate to try to stop the opponent from being able to play out their Digimon by card effects, while also nuking and wiping all of their Digimon on the field with 6,000 DP or less. And this card from our hand costs 1 less to play for each Digimon that the opponent has on their field, making it just one of the most efficient removal options that we have, while doubling as a nice floodgate. And then I'm also going to be running 3 copies of Trident Gaia. So Trident Gaia is actually a pretty decent removal option. Outright deleting the Digimon with the highest DP is already pretty decent at removing whatever threat we need to. And then on top of that, if that Digimon had 13,000 or more DP, then we also get to trash the top of their security stack. It means that it allows us to try to win the game easier, having alternative ways to be able to deal damage to them. I'm also going to be running 1 copy of Wyvern's Breath. It doesn't necessarily have to be Wyvern's Breath. We have a whole bunch of yellow removal, big DP reduction options. Wyvern's Breath is just a simple one, just because it's a minus 15,000 DP, which isn't bad, and that's why I'm also going to be running one copy of Sunrise Buster, which incidentally is another card that is limited to one, because it's a way for us to be able to play out our Tamers alternatively, and minus 3,000 DP to one of the opponent's Digimon for each red and yellow Tamer that we have in play. This combos really nicely with Marcus, because we could use Marcus to then reduce for another 3,000 DP to be able to extend the range on the DP reduction capabilities of what this card can do, while all of these cards are being really decent security threats. And that's kind of it for the deck. The deck does have lots of ways to be able to build it and customize it, because hybrids as a concept and strategy isn't necessarily a super concrete one when they don't have a fully fleshed out deck compared to red hybrids. So there is just a lot of different things that you can do and a lot of different tech and tools that you could play, all depending on what you actually want to play, how you're going to be playing the deck, and the meta that you're going to be prepping and anticipating for. And then as far as some potential future upgrades, well, the deck really isn't getting any direct support, so it's just utilizing all of the various different tech and tools that we do have to be able to customize the deck to fit what you think the overall game plan should be based on the different metas that you're going to be encountering. I do think that makes this deck a pretty strong and versatile deck to be playing with overall.